for a place that I'd rather be. I've been searching for my own destiny. I raise my gun to the sky and scream out loud. This is my life, this is my hope, this is what I stand for. Now it's the time to let it all. We are the young ones that fight for survival. We will watch it like an eye on the fighter. We are the young ones that fight for survival. We will watch it like an eye on the fighter. We will watch it like an eye on the I've been looking for a place that I'd rather be. I've been searching for my own destiny. I raise my gun to the sky and scream out loud. This is my life, this is my hope, this is what I stand for. Now it's the time to let it all. We are the young ones that fight for survival. We will watch it like an eye on the fighter. We are the young ones that fight for survival. We will watch it like an eye on the fighter. We will watch it like an eye on the
And away we go here for Xbox Division 3.
Still wheel to wheel coming out of turn 19.
Tries to go down the inside of Desio. Desio giving him space, but not by much.
Oh, and he's oversteered, and he spun. They're side by side, off the track, neck and neck.
Good evening, everyone. There we go. Reset on me there. But good evening, everyone. This is Kermit solo in the booth tonight in Vietnam. The Hanoi Street Track Circuit is coming up for you tonight. So this one is a bit of an interesting one. We're actually going to be seeing this one in esports before we see it in real life. I am kind of upset about that because I think it is a very interesting track. Some very intricate corners that are really easy to mess up, at least from what I've driven so far. So tonight we will see 28 laps around the Hanoi circuit. The softs could eat up about 12 of those laps, medium 16, and hards 21, fastest repeatable lap time from our drivers. We're going to be looking for the mid 132s. I was poking around the league's time trials earlier and saw that 133.1 was not undoable by a couple of our drivers. So we are going to see if a driver is able to get closer or below that tonight. All right, moving on to our driver wrap up for each of the teams. We've got Racing Point with Getchum and Some Idiot. Both have been driving very well this season. With McLaren, we've got Cream and Rogue, a nice second and third finish from them last race at Bahrain, a double podium, bringing home a nice haul of points. As you'll see in a minute, that brought McLaren up to the top of the standings. For the Constructors' Championship, AlphaTauri's got Corsac and Hammer Time. We got one of the cars on the screen with that new livery that we like so much, the black and white livery of AlphaTauri. I think it looks very nice. Mercedes, we've got Destiel and Terry, been doing pretty well this season. Destiel needs to pick up his consistency a little bit if he's going to place where he placed last season. Red Bull, Stoney and Shea B, nice points place from Stoney last race. It'll be interesting to see if we can't get another one out of him here in Vietnam. Ferrari, we've got Sims Bad and we've got Buddha. Both new to PPR PCD1 League, but keeping Ferrari firmly in the running for the championship. This early in the season, anything could happen. Alfa Romeo, we've got PPR Nick as well as Double OT. Renault, we've got Capital Hood and Dr. McShorty. Capital Hood falling off in consistency from last year, stating earlier today he is having some trouble with the 2020 car model, as we've seen in the first race in Australia as well as the second race in Bahrain, that caused an early retirement because he couldn't get the tire temperatures under control. So be looking for a little more consistency out of Capital Hood today. However, a track that he's never raced on before, I think, is not going to help necessarily his tire consistency. But that's what he needs to do tonight in order to keep himself into points contention, of which he has yet to score any this year. Haas, we've got Doc Balak alone on the team for now. Season 1, he was with McLaren. Williams, we've got Randoms alone on Williams as well. If you'd like to pick up one of those Haas or Williams spots, please go to our website, ppresports.com. Speaking of ppresports.com, we have recently made an update that has our league standings. So the standings you see on the screen in front of you are available at ppresports.com. Under PCD1, you can see all sorts of stats about our drivers as well, so go ahead, take a look over there. Pretty impressive. Shout out to Indian Cyclone, who was the proprietor of that, really put that together for PPR. It's really been doing some good work for us. But on to the task at hand. Some Idiot, of course, we have first in the Drivers' Championship with 2. A perfect record so far this season. 2 wins, 50 points total, keeps him in first. Rogue with 30 points in second. Destiel in third with 28 points. Cream, 26 points in fourth. Stoney, 18 in fifth. Hammer Time, 12 in sixth. Corsac, 10 in seventh. Simsbad, 8 in eighth. Oddly enough. Then tied for 8th is Shaby, also with 8 points. We've got Buddha in 10th with 6 points. Getchum with 5 points in 11th. And Double OT rounding out our points getters with 1 point in 12th. Beyond that, we've got Terry, Red Hornet, Randoms, Nick, Hugo's, Fluffy Dave, Doc Block, Capita Hood, Alexander, Dr. McShorty, all yet to score points this season. Be looking for good things out of them this race. We'll see a couple of those. The ones with the R's next to their name are reserve drivers, so they'll be popping in and out of races. But the ones that are listed as a full team driver will be the ones consistently showing up week after week. So be here next week, of course, to look for him. But let's focus on this week for now, because we've got McLaren leading the Constructors' Championship after the very strong 2-3 finish last week, bumping them up to 56 points into that first position. Racing Point only 1 point behind in second with 55 points. Mercedes, quite the drop off to 28 points, however, not unclosable. Remember, 51 points available to every team except for Haas and Williams due to their limitation of 1 driver at the moment. Mercedes, of course, takes home that 3rd spot. Of course, Red Bull right behind them, 26 points in 4th. AlphaTauri not too far behind them, 22 points in 5th. Ferrari 14 points in 6th. Alfa Romeo 1 point down in 7th. Renault, Haas, and Williams all have yet to score this season going into race number 3. Again, this is Kermit with PPR Esports Pole Position Racing. We're excited tonight to bring you a race from North America, but electronically in Vietnam. Race number 33 of 22 in our extended F1 calendar this season. More races than on any calendar. Actually, more races than are on the actual F1 calendar as of right now, and it looks like it will stay that way at least for a little bit. So let's go ahead and take a little more in-depth look into our track layout here. So as you can see, the start finish line is on that nice straight portion, kind of to the upper left. This is a counter or anti-clockwise track. So they start out on that straight edge to the upper left, and they're actually going to head down towards the bottom of the screen. So what that gets them is the dive down into turn 1. It is sharper than a 90-degree turn, but not quite a hairpin. Speaking of hairpins, though, turns 2 and 3 kind of make up this weird, funky, almost, alligator clip style hairpin. So really there's a double apex there, even a triple apex depending on how you drive it. But at least look to see a double apex. And of course it spits you out of turn 4 then to this long straight down. I believe there's a DRS zone there, but it's a very long straight down into a sharp turn number 6. Basically a chicane of turn 6 and 7. Turn 6 a little less than 90 degrees, but turn 7 pretty much exactly 90 degrees, leading into that sweeping left-hand turn. Really hard to keep the tires in an acceptable range around that turn, as well as get enough traction on the exit to then catapult yourself out of turn 9 down what we're calling the back straight. The back straight almost including turn 10 there, that slight jaunt to the right you see right in the middle there, down, and then turn 11, a hard braking zone, very, very acute angle, way shorter than 90 degrees into turn 11. Turn 12, it opens up a little bit of a straight in the run down to 13. Then, probably my favorite part of the course, turns 13 through 22. What you have here is basically a combination of S's. I like to think of turn 13, 14, and 15 as kind of their own complex of S's. However, 15, 16, 17, and maybe 18 could also be considered their own as far as pitch of those turns or radius of those turns. Next, we've got turn 19, turn 20, turn 21, of course, which all affects your entry into turn 22. 22, that turn in the very upper right-hand corner of your screen, sharper then right-hand turn, then down to 23, just a right-hand turn back onto the main straight. So we will go through during qualifying exactly what a lap looks like, because it's one thing to look at it in the 2D space when it's just a series of turns on your screen. It is entirely another to add that third dimension in when the track starts rolling from side to side. Really can unsettle the car in weird places, and when you add in the curbs, that'll unsettle the car, as well as maybe the ambient temperature of the air. You get those tires sitting at different temperatures, which have a huge effect on your lap time and the way the car is going to perform around the circuit. So, let's go ahead and go back to that. Tires tonight. Soft, medium, and hards, as we always do. Softs are rated to last 12 laps, 16 for the mediums and 21 for the hards. So, in theory, it is possible to go soft, hard. Soft, medium is possible, but only just. So one thing I'm noticing, at least through the first 3 races here, is a lot of our tire wear compounds have been like this. Basically, soft and medium will get you just to the number of laps that the race is. Soft hard gets you pretty much safely there. Medium hard means you can be putting in pretty decent lap times and pushing those tires consistently throughout the race before they're going to wear out on you. So some things, we'll see if that's homologated for the rest of the season, but that's kind of a theme I'm noticing. However, a lot of our drivers on the grid seem to be able to outperform when compared to the number that Codemasters has set for number of laps that the tires will go. Sometimes you can push those mediums just a little bit further, which pushes you more into the comfortable medium soft range. I will suspect with tire ranges like this that be watching any driver to place outside the top 10 in qualifying is going to be wanting to start on those mediums, able to stretch those just a little bit further and then get on to the softs at a very opportune time later in the race. If you're on the mediums, you can also take advantage of a middle of the race safety car, which then you could easily transition to hards to make it to the end of the race, take full advantage of the time you have there, maybe save some of the mediums on the safety car. I don't know, we got options. So of course 23 turns total, 28 laps tonight in our 50% race. Keep in mind, none of our drivers will be using any sort of assist. That means no line, no ABS, no traction control, no pit limit. Well, there is a pit limiter, but there's no pit assist, so it won't turn on the pit limiter for you. You have to make sure you're braking before the pit line. It will not slow you down. So be on the lookout for some of those penalties, because that is a quick way to ruin a race. You come in a little too hot into that pit lane, that's an automatic 5 seconds, and I know it feels excruciating to slow down just that much more right before you enter the pits, but I can almost guarantee you every time you're going to come off worse with the penalty. It's not going to take you an extra 5 seconds to get into those pits with that little extra tap of the brakes. So tonight I'm pretty excited about this race. Some of the first action we'll be able to see from Vietnam. One of the things I'm interested to see is how our drivers will read the circuit in terms of passing zones. It's not necessarily the easiest track to pass on in concept. When you get to the S's, you have a lot of obviously just a lot of turns change who can have the advantage very, very quickly through the course of a lap. It can go from the driver on the inside having the advantage to the driver on the outside having the advantage in a matter of seconds, just because we're going from turn to turn. Okay, so tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we have a 12 driver grid. Of course, we would like a few more drivers on the grid normally. However, I think with the drivers that we have here tonight, we're going to see a pretty good show. We've got some idiot who seems to have been in a class of his own. Hammer Time giving him a challenge last race in the early stages of the race. We'll see if he's able to do that again. Red Hornet, thanks to a late pit, was able to get some running up towards the front of the pack last race. We'll see if he's able to actually hold on to that position moving forward. We see some of our drivers coming down the pit lane here. Let's go ahead and get some of our telemetry on screen. Looks like no drivers have gone out yet with any other tire than the soft. Simsbad has the mediums fitted. Might be going for those, but we won't know until he actually exits the pit lane. He still has a chance to change up until he leaves his garage, which he has not done yet. So a few cars out on the track. Looks like we have the Mercedes of Hammer Time currently going around the track first. He'll be the first to set a hot lap. So take notice. Let's go ahead and get on board here. Take notice of the way this track looks. So it is a street circuit. So a lot of it is, we'll say, flat corners. There's not a whole lot of banking left or right because they are streets that cars drive on and parking lots that people park in throughout the day. So not a whole lot of pitch and roll to some of these corners. However, we do have the walls that you would associate with a street track like Monaco, like Singapore. There are little runoff areas, as you see to the left of Hammer Time's car there. But once you get into these S's here, these are what I was talking about earlier. It changes who has the inside line turn after turn, and it does that for basically all of Sector 3. So that, coupled with the fact that there are hard walls right on the edge of the circuit, is going to make that a very interesting choice, or interesting place for our drivers to try and overtake each other, right? There's very risk and reward, right? So the reward is the apex currently changes. So provided you can see enough turns ahead, you're going to get the jump on your rival or your opponent, whoever is currently going into that turn. But what's not going to happen is you're going to accidentally get together and one of you runs into an off area or a wide gravel patch or something like that. The reason being, there's just a wall there. So very high risk as far as ruining your own race and potentially ruining whoever's race you were battling with. And no one wants to do that. Not just because no one likes to see that on track, but also because you could get some penalty points. So that is one thing that our stewards have been doing this season, and as a continuation from last season, they have been continuing to dole out those penalty points. So depending on what they see on the track and behavior and incident reports that other people submit, they will issue penalty points based on effectively how clean you are throughout the course of a season. Too many, you get a qualifying ban. Too many more, and you get a race ban. And I think if you get up to 25, almost 30 points, then it could be a league ban. You're up for review at that point. Most bad incidents carry somewhere between 4 and 5 penalty points. If something is particularly egregious, I've seen as high as 8 or 9. So it takes a few of those to really get kicked out. Of course, there are some things that the league has zero policy for and can decide, and the stewards can decide to give you any number of points for some of those more egregious offenses. So it's one of those things that you want to avoid it at all possible. So you want to keep your car out of the wall, and you want to keep your opponent's car out of that wall as well. One of the racing points of Getchum here comes into the pits. We've got his teammate, Some Idiot, going on, finishing up a hot lap here. Let's see where Some Idiot is able to go. Currently, Hammer Time and Stoney, the only two to set times. Some Idiot is going to go ahead and cross the start-finish line and actually not have a time set. I wonder if he invalidated his lap. Dr. McShorty calls it a day, retires from the session. I don't know if that was of his own fruition. Judging by the Renault that is parked in the middle of Sector 3, causing a yellow flag, I'm going to say that was not intentional. So Dr. McShorty out of it early after not being able to keep it together through Sector 3, not able to see the Renault parked on the side of the track there. Creamy John's on his in-lap, not able to put together a lap that was not invalidated. Rogue yet to set a time as well. There we go. Now we've got a time from Creamy John's with a 1:33.9. There's the 33s I said we were going to be seeing. Hopefully we can get down into the 32s. I think Some Idiot might have a 32 lap in there somewhere. Getchum I've seen have incredible pace as well. We might be able to see that as well. Rogue still in the pits. Some Idiot on the track on his way in. Currently, we've got the Ferrari of Simsbad. Let's go there. Currently finishing up his hot lap here. Let's go ahead and ride along as he goes through Sector 3 here. So there we have it. He just crossed turn 11. Then there's going to be a hard right-hander down into turn 13. You got to take it as wide as possible, both on the entry and the exit. Still gets a little bit of a lockup. A little too much strain on those mediums, and before you know it, we're through turn 15, going around turn 16, then 17 drifting a little wide. Could have cut that, I think, a little closer, give himself a little straighter line through the complex there. Going around turn 19, turn 20 here. Oh, excuse me, never mind, we're all the way at turn 22. Skip past a few on me there. We're going to head turn 23, the last right-hander to finish off the track. Goes down the straight, sets a time of a 1:40.1 on the mediums, not half bad. Today's grid of 12, he's only going to have to outpace 2 drivers in order to place on those tires. So the mediums seem like a pretty safe bet because you've got a pretty decent chance of starting higher up in the ranking on those mediums, so not losing out too many positions as you normally would with a full grid. So we've got, looks like Randoms is of the same mindset, just started his hot lap on these mediums. Let's see how Sector 1 and 2 go for him. Ooh, big lockup into turn 1. Turn number 2 here, again, the double, almost triple apex. Ooh, going around, not going to touch his wing. Hopefully didn't impede anyone's lap here. He's got some time to turn it around. Nice job from him keeping it out of the way, just staying put for the other cars to pass of. Looked like Stoney and Getchum. Easily passed him before he was able to come back out on the circuit. Nice recovery from him. Getchum currently on his outlap. Cabot Hood in the pits has yet to come out and set a time. Normally he doesn't quite wait this long. It'll be interesting to see when he chooses to go out. He's not going to have too much more time to run 2 laps if he needs to. Catch him here, keeping it cool on his outlap. Looking at his computer dash here, if that's to be believed, his tires are a little cold. Sitting right around the lower 80s. He's going to need to heat those up if he's really going to want to get a hot lap in. So that's one of the things that these drivers have to manage pretty well on tracks like this, and depending on the ambient temperature of the air, they really need to manage their tire temperature in order to keep them moving in the right direction around the corners. Finishes out the S's here. Is going to go around the penultimate corner. Finishes off around the last corner. Shoots it down the main straight, running as wide as possible. Foot all the way to the floor. ERS to 2, which is the highest ERS mode allowed in qualifying. Shoots the engine mode up to Rich. Ooh, Rogue passes him, then disconnects, going all over the place. Interesting to see. Getchum apparently felt that affected his lap. I don't necessarily blame him seeing Rogue come in that fast, but Rogue is just on the outlap, so hopefully that he knew better to pass him. I'm sure he does, so I think that was either a desync from the server or an AI glitch. Alright, so he is no longer going to be putting together that hot lap. Let's go ahead and look at hammer time here. He is going into the pits. Decides that his last hot lap wasn't quite good enough either. Stoney, on the other hand, is currently flying through Sector 2. Hard braking zone after the back straight. He's going to put the foot to the floor. Floors it all the way down the mini straight here. Into the S's. Nice apex clip from him. See what I'm talking about when I talk about keeping the car relatively straight through these S's. The less steering inputs you have to give, the better. Nice apex clip from there. Of course, not clipping the curb, but I don't think you want to run much narrower in that corner in order to maintain your speed through it. Good looking run from Stoney. Let's see if it advances him at all. Does not. Stays third fastest with a 1:35.5. Randoms sets in a faster lap than Simsbad, who has now decided to go out on that soft tire. Randoms, of course, on the medium tire with a 1:38.3. Shaby immediately goes faster with a 1:36.3. The times are starting to roll in now. Some idiot sets a fast time with a 1:33.2. With a little less fuel and a little more determination, he might be able to squeak into the 1:32s. But 0.2 to shave off is not insignificant. It depends on how much he felt like he made a mistake that lap. Let's see what our drivers decide to do for some of their final runs here. So Randoms is the only one that has decided to set a legitimate time on the mediums. The other drivers maybe tried like Simsbad, but is going out on the soft. So that's currently what's fitted. His fastest is a medium right now for Simsbad, but I imagine he's going to have no problem. Well, that's going to be a problem. So I was gonna say he's gonna not have a problem setting a faster time on those softs, but then he cooks it wide into turn 1, not able to stop in time. That's gonna lose him quite a bit of time. So he only has to be 2 seconds or even a tenth under his last time to start on these tires. So I don't know that that was enough to lose him 2 seconds compared to, I guess, Random's time. But when you start looking at somebody in Creamy John, 7 seconds is quite a bit. Big gap. So provided Simsbad doesn't make too many mistakes like that in his lap, he's going to be able to set a faster time on these softs. Start a little more towards the front of the pack. We've got some discussion going on in chat about exactly what the strategy should be here. A couple drivers saying it's not so bad to start in 11th or 12th. Stay out of the thick of things because you know cars are going to be trying to get together in the first laps here. Of course, the lack of assists of maybe ABS as well as racing line make it a little more ambiguous as to when you should be braking. And a little more driver base as far as if you hit the tires too late, the ABS is not there to help you maintain traction, you could really overshoot your target. Seems bad having a nice Sector 3 so far. Let's hope he's able to keep it together. Oh, decides to go into the pits with 4.5 minutes left. He's going to have just enough time to fit another pit set of tires on. Take maybe as little fuel as possible and send it out onto the track. Red Hornet's deciding to go around another lap on those softs. No fuel light yet, so decidingly going to maybe just on an out lap to warm them up. Seems interesting because our tire strategies are going to be so close. With 28 laps in the race and 12 laps on those softs, you're really going to want every lap you can out of those. So if Red Hornet already set a time on these tires and they have that wear built into them already, it seems like a very odd choice that he's going to want to start the race with those. You pretty much want all the tire life you can get, not just because it helps you go faster, but because the tires may or may not be able to last to the end of the race, depending on how well you treat them. Looks like drivers are having a lot better time at keeping the traction under the car here than at Bahrain last week. Of course, Bahrain with a couple tricky gradient changes that kind of take the car away out from under you, that these cars no longer have to deal with, this being a street circuit. Instead, they have to deal with more of the hard damage, like a wall, per se. Red Hornet here is going to need to set some sort of lap time. No fuel light flashing, which means me to believe he will be able to finish his current lap and potentially start on or go into an in lap, because that's he's not going to quite make it over the time barrier. So what I mean by that is he's definitely got enough fuel to finish out the lap, but does he have enough fuel to go another lap to actually get himself into the pits, or is he going to have to be on fuel saving mode on the way in? So judging by the fact that it hasn't come on yet, I think he should be just fine. But part of what you can run into at around this time of qualifying is drivers tend to take as little fuel as they possibly can, and the game sometimes will let you take less fuel than will get you out of the pits on a hot lap and then back in. It'll give you about 2 laps of fuel. So really all you have the fuel to do is an out lap and then a hot lap. If you time it right to where you finish your hot lap after qualifying is ended, AI takes over and it's no big deal. However, if you cross the line before the qualifying time runs out, you are responsible yourself for getting back to those pits. And if you don't have enough fuel, you have to put it in fuel saver mode. And while it is possible to get back, at a track like this, it makes the chance of you blocking someone during qualifying all that much harder, and the odds of you getting submitted to the stewards that much more likely. So we've got now a time out of Red Hornet with a 1:36.8, a decent gap between our first and our last qualified driver at the moment. 1:33.2 for some idiot in first. Seems bad currently the last driver with a time at a 1:40.1. Dr. McShorty, Capita Hood, I wonder what they're thinking at this point. So Capita Hood missed his window to go out. He does not have enough time to get around the track, so he has decided he is starting in 12th. There could be a couple reasons for that. I think he maybe wanted the cooperation of his teammate. Of course, his teammate, Dr. McShorty, with an unfortunate disqualification, or DNF, I should say, out of qualifying early due to the wall hit in the middle of Sector 3, has taken him out, automatically started him basically behind anyone that has set a time. But Capitol Hood not gone out at all, so it's going to start him in the very last row. But they'll be able to help each other turn 1. One of the things I learned from racing in PCD2 with Cosmo last season was that having one teammate in your ear pretty much the whole time, one that can give you a different vantage point of the race, really gives you an advantage from a data standpoint. Nice lockup from some idiot there into the penultimate corner. Going to go ahead and cross the line. Let's see if he can break into the 132. Does not. 133.1 is what we see from some idiot here. Very nice lap. Fast lap from him. Almost 8/10 away from our second driver of Creamy John's here. Creamy John's not able to set a faster lap, but Hammer Time, Stony, Rogue, Shay B, as well as Simsbad all could potentially dethrone him at this point. So some idiot had his chance to set a fast lap. Hammer Time on a flyer at the moment. Going to be heading into Sector 3. Looks like we have the Ferrari of Simsbad will be the next one to cross the line. Moving through Sector 3 here. On to turn 21 now. Into turn 22. Ooh, over-rotates on the exit. Gets a little bit too much throttle down. He's going to want to be careful not to block here. He's also going to want to be careful that the AI doesn't disqualify him. That wasn't too bad. He knows he's got to get out of the way quickly. Decides, I don't need any more wing. Let's snap that off. Get me out of here as quick as we possibly can. Stoney goes across the line. That will be his time with a 135.5. Goes faster than Rogue, who's currently in 5th. Rogue will have a chance to set another time across the start-finish line here. Goes 3rd fastest with a 134.7 and is immediately unseated by Hammer Time, which is a 134.1. Nice qualifying from him. We've got Shay Beat across the line next. Outpaces his teammate with a 134.8. And I think that will do it for all our drivers on track tonight. Some idiot on his in-lap. Currently not enough fuel to set another lap. Will stay with first with a 133.1. Some nice late laps from Hammer Time and Rogue there, going back and forth. Of course, a nice another lap by Shay B to outpace his teammate, taking home that 5th position. Shay B and Stoney, two of the drivers that have been with PPR since the beginning of Season 1, showing a nice improvement in consistency. I think they're going to be happy with that. Happy starting next to each other for one, as well as starting in 5th and 6th. A nice showing from them. Basically a 3rd row lockout. They're going to be able to, like I said, strategize into turn 1. Just having someone behind you calling out who's to your right and to your left and what kind of space you have really helps. Now, one of the additions that F1 2020 really has brought to the table is the rearview mirror that sits in the middle of your halo if you're in the driver's seat. So what that is basically a rearview mirror that takes up your whole halo, which makes it very easy to see what's going on behind you. Makes it really nice to see drivers coming up behind you without having to change the field of vision of your screen so much that it no longer fits your screen. If you had an ultra-wide monitor or something like that, your probably wasn't an issue for you ever. But for those of us with regular-sized monitors, sometimes it's harder to see those mirrors on some car models than others, so it's nice just to have a little aid like that. So there you have it. That'll be our starting order. Some idiot Creamy John's on the front row. Hammer Time 44, Rogue, Shay B rounding out the top 5. Stoney in 6th, Ketchum 7th, Red Hornet 8th, Randoms 9th, Simsbad 10th, Dr. McShorty in 11th, and Capita Hood rounding out our drivers today with no time set in 12th. Dr. McShorty with an unfortunate did not finish out of our or disqualification out of our qualifying early due to a spin into the wall and too much damage on his car. So our driver's going to go ahead, get ready for the grid here. They're going to load into their cars. They're going to make any last minute setup changes that they want or can, because they're going to change. One of the things they can change is down force as well as fuel load and differential adjustment. Differential, of course, dictating how much your two rear tires are locked together as far as rotation goes. So you have your rear diff unlocked. Your two tires can rotate pretty freely from one another. Of course, the fact that there is a diff means they have to rotate at least somewhat like each other. But on the other end of that spectrum, if you lock your diff 100%, that means whenever one tire rotates, the other tire rotates, and vice versa. If a tire is not rotating, the other one isn't rotating either. That can cause some big issues around corners where you have an inside tire looking to travel less distance and the outside tire really can wear your tires out very quickly. But on the plus side, getting the power down to the track is that much easier when you have both rear tires working together in unison like that. So it'll be interesting to see what our drivers have decided to go with their differential setup. Some will close that differential on qualifying to get that better power output out of the turns and then open it up into the race to try and get the decrease in tire wear. interval here. Let's go ahead and take a look at our tires fitted. 2 drivers on the track having gone with the mediums. That's Simsbad and Capita Hood. Late safety car could lean towards the hards. No driver thinks that is going to happen. One of the things I think that we've been seeing with our leagues, at least in PCD2, a little bit in PCD1 as well, you don't have as many safety cars later in the race. They tend to happen earlier when our drivers are really jockeying for position, when they really decide to dive those corners, when they think that it is very beneficial to them. That is when we can see some of the safety cars. And I don't think Hanoi is going to be an exception to that rule. Just judging by all the walls we have here, again, like at the end of the hairpin there, at the end of a long straight, you have a nice runoff area. But I mean, the things with runoff area is something that you really see at Monaco as well. Comes a point in the turn where you have to decide if you're going to carry the turn through or not, or if you're going to go into that runoff area. So too much of a lockup could spooky you go into that runoff area, but once you're in that runoff area, you lose a lot more time than if you were just able to run wide on a corner with, say, no wall on the exit turn, or exit of the turn. So we've got our 2 Red Bulls here, Shaby and Stoney. It looks like our pack is pretty condensed here towards the end. I wonder if some of our drivers will be struggling with tire temps. Looks like Stoney's pretty good. He's got his in the low 90s, which is just about right where you want him for race start. A little bit warmer, probably will work, but you're going to get plenty of heat coming off the line and going down into turn 1 as our drivers form up to the grid. We're going to see the lights stutter just a little bit. The lights turn, 5 lights are on, and they're out. And away we go. We're off at Vietnam, race number 3 of PPR Season 2 here. Some Idiot leading the charge down into turn 1. The 2 McLaren, Some Idiot runs way, way wide. The 2 McLaren's taking much advantage of that, battling side by side way into the front spots. Very nice inside move from, I believe, Rogue there. Takes the position, goes around the inside. Very nice. McLaren's keeping it tight. Decide to shuffle into pace there. The AlphaTauri of Hammer Time not giving up so easily, giving both of them chase. Going to get to the inside of Creamy John's there. Doesn't quite get the pass done around the hairpin there. We're going to go down to the back straight. This is going to be a slipstream party here, ladies and gentlemen. All the drivers filing just behind the car in front of them, hoping to get a little bit of advantage from the car in front of them, breaking the wind. As you can see, the car's weaving down the straight ever so slightly in an attempt to either stay in the car ahead of them slipstream or move out from, or get a car behind them out of their own slipstream. Red Bull of Shea B going in pretty wide, giving Stoney a bump on the exit there. Gonna need to watch that if he's going to keep both of the Red Bull cars in the race today. Randoms going around at the hairpin there, enough to cause a yellow flag, but no safety car. Let's go ahead and keep our attention on the main action here, though. We've got Dr. McShorty, who's made out very well since the beginning of this race, up into position 7 after starting 11th. Capita Hood not faring so bad either, up 2 positions into 10th from starting dead last in 12th. Sims Bad and Randoms, both a little bit of a fall down the order into 11th and 12th, but no driver should fare terrible today, as 12 drivers on the grids mean all but 2 drivers will be going home with points, provided they finish the race. If you DNF, that is no points, no matter what. Unfortunate for the drivers that get DNFs for the reasons, but that for reasons that may not be considered fair. But part of that is just the way it works. This is the game we're given. This is what we have to go with. Creamy John's battling Rogue for that front position here while F1 gets our timing sorted out here. Luckily, most of our drivers are going to be on the lead lap this race, it looks like. So we are going to have a little more accurate times once everything gets sorted out here. Creamy John's always looking for that move on Rogue. DRS will be activated here. Goes down the straight here. excuse me, goes down into the right-hand turn of 13 before we get to the third sector of the S's. Very nice Rogue and Creamy John's keeping it pretty unison together. The AlphaTauri of Hammer Time is going to be stuck to them as well. Going to be well within the DRS range by the time the DRS detection zone comes in. What that means is if he is under, or 1 second or under from the car in front of him, he's going to open a flap in the rear wing. It's going to increase his top speed and reduce the drag on the car. Creamy John's going down to the inside of Rogue on turn 1 there, not the turn 1 dive we expected from the beginning, but we are now getting it in lap number 3 with our nice fight for third here up among our top 3 drivers, Rogue, Creamy, and Hammer Time. Excuse me, fight for first with our top 3 drivers. Fight for fourth going on not so much because Stoney is kind of on his own bit of track, 1.5 seconds ahead of Shea B and 1.6 seconds behind Hammer Time at the moment. Creamy John seeming to have the pace on Rogue, but Rogue making that card extremely wide going around the hairpin here. Gets a nice exit, but Hammer Time does not quite get a good of his exit as the 2 McLarens do. We'll see. It looks like Creamy Johns is going to go for it around down the inside. Gets the pass done before the turn, really. Keeps it together. Ooh, Rogue tries the crossover, but turns in a little too sharp. Bumps Creamy John's rear end. Hammer Time has to back off ever so slightly. Unfortunately for him, that means Creamy John's and Rogue get very, very good exits out of the corner. Some idiot doing well to make his way back up the ranks into 7th currently, but still has quite a bit of work to do if he's going to want to get back to where he started on that podium. Stoney now in the mix, going to be able to challenge our front runners here for that position. Let's see if he is able to close that gap even further. I know Hammer Time had to back off into one of the turns, and that was really the culprit of a lot of that time loss for him. Getchum and Some Idiot having a good battle as well. Getchum, for me, not the most stable on the screen as far as lag goes, but Some Idiot goes around the outside. Getchum tries to defend, but I think Some Idiot gets it done no matter what there. Yeah, I think he's just got the pace. That's smart to get him to get out of the way, but it was smart of them to execute that in a way that didn't really hurt either of them. So you can see Dr. McShorty didn't lose, Getchum didn't lose a whole lot of time to Dr. McShorty. I think was part of the Racing Points plan there because they both want the team to take home a nice haul of points, but I think they know that Some Idiots just has the pace to get around that much faster. Dr. McShorty and Capita Hood doing well to charge their way up to the field now 8th and 9th respectively. Dr. McShorty is kind of stalled out in the 8th place position, is going to try and give the Racing Point of Getchum a challenge any minute here, I'm sure, just judging by the fact that he is only 0.4 of a second behind, so he will have that DRS activation down the straights here. If you look in the mini-map in the bottom right-hand corner, the green areas are where drivers are allowed to have DRS open. We have an AlphaTauri of Hammer Time has gone around in the overflow. His challenge for first is going to be over for the time being until something maybe changes with the tire strategies here. Now they've got quite the gap forming up at the beginning. Up at the front. We have Rogue now 3 seconds behind Creamy John, so I wonder if Rogue was involved in a little bit of an incident maybe with Hammer Time there before that change. Yep, as I say that, Rogue goes into the pits, I imagine, to get a new wing here because it's a little early for those softs. Those softs should last about 12 laps. Let's go ahead and see where Rogue is going to come out into the pack here as we speak. Looks like Some Idiot just got the move done on Shea B there. Next target is Stoney. Some Idiot moving up the ranks very, very quickly. Randoms decides it is his time to go ahead and pit. Rogue definitely changes those tires, but he also looks like he got a wing judging by the length of that stop. Randoms choosing for another wing as well. Gonna need that downforce around a track like this, not one where you can really spare any of your needed downforce. You gotta, understeer's not a thing that can happen on this track without too much of a penalty. So the front wing, that little jutty bit out from the nose just in front of those front tires, that is responsible for keeping your front end glued to the track. So what that does, it's an upside down airplane wing that pushes all of the air over it so it can glide under it. And when that breaks off or becomes less effective, that means there is less force jamming the front of your car vis-a-vis the front tires into the pavement. Then that means a reduction in performance. Specifically, it means understeer. It means when you turn that wheel, your car does not turn as much as you would like it to. It underperforms on your steering. There's a saying, understeer scares, or excuse me, the oversteer is scary for the passenger. Understeer is scary for the driver. Understeer, especially at a track like this. If you just have that steering wheel turned all the way, but you're not turning in as much as you thought you would, that could mean you're into a wall. Best case, you lose an end plate from your wing, gives you less downforce and exacerbates your understeer problem. Worst case, snaps off one of your axles depending on how much speed you were carrying through that corner. Nice battle going on for fourth here. Hammer Time really able to keep the pressure on Shea B here. Hammer Time going to go for that pass, opens the DRS wing. Of course, Shea B's got to worry about Getchum just behind him, also has DRS activation. Hammer Time able to keep it out in front. Looks like Shea B might have cut the corner, had to kind of back off the throttle a little bit, but Hammer Time with a very nice pass there in the Alpha Tauri. Keeping it for Samidia. This may be one of the more interesting races we've seen from him so far. Fallen from first all the way back to the latter positions in the race, and now already clawed his way back up to third, really before the pit stops. Pretty impressive from Some Idiot here. Let's go ahead and pop over to see what we have as far as tires go. There we go. Currently 4 cars on the mediums. That is Capita Hood, Simspad, Rogue, and Random. Simspad and Capita Hood, of course, starting the race on those mediums. Rogue and Random's going in for those and settling for those because they needed a new wing anyway. Now we've got Hammer Time and Dr. McShorty into the pits as I'm calling it out. Lap 7 when these drivers decide that they need to go into the pits. Let's go ahead and jump over to Hammer Time here. Let's see if he gets a new wing, because again, it is a little early to pit those softs that are rated to go 12 laps. Gets those off. Has to wait to apparently, yep, oh, there's the wing. Okay. Puts on another set of softs, so commits to that 2-stopper. That makes sense, because even stretching the hards from this point in the race, you're really bumping up against that tire wear threshold. So Hammer Time fancies his chances if he gives himself the faster tire there. Dr. McShorty coming out just behind him, pitting at the same time. Dr. McShorty on those mediums, going 16 laps on those, will not make them to the end of the race, but it's not going to fall too far short. So I could see Dr. McShorty wanting to stretch those, but I don't think it's maybe the conservative move. I mean, it might work out for him. I think he's going to pass Hammer Time after about 9 laps. Well, give it 12 if Hammer Time stays out on those soft that long, because Hammer Time as of right now is going to begin fast work on putting that gap on Dr. McShorty, already with a 2.1 second gap. It's not going to get much better from there on out. At least in the early stages of these tires, those softs going to be able to go around these corners much faster. Of course, Hammer Time with a little bit of lockup there, not going to help himself stretch those tires any further than he has to. Creamy John's running pretty comfortably at the beginning of this race, but Some Idiot catching up very quickly. 4.6 seconds, 4.8 seconds now behind Creamy John's. Creamy John's showing some really good pace, but not quite able to outpace Some Idiot. Some Idiot has worked his way back up from the back of the field, looking like he's going to overtake them at any point, where we've got Rogue here gone around on the main straight. Looks like he's got all of his end plates still there, but that's still not going to help his tires. Of course, we've seen drivers like Capita Hood struggle with tire temperatures this season, able to getting them back down after a event like that. It'll be interesting to see if Rogue is able to get those back down, because those are new tires. He's got to take those a decent ways into the race. Even if he has another set of softs to use, he's still going to have to get to within 12 to 10 laps of the end of the race before he's able to use those. Getchum, I think, knows it. Knows that Rogue may be struggling on those very hot mediums at the moment. And if Getchum has his in that window where they perform pretty well, he may be able to take advantage of that. Looks like Getchum tires are 87 on the left, 94 for the front right, and 87 for the back right. Pretty good tire temperatures. Right around the low 90s is where you want to float. Maybe upper 80s for the mediums is where you want to float those temperatures to keep the maximum amount of grip without causing any excessive wear on them. Let's see here if Getchum's able to overtake him. Rogue should have some of the overheating tire effects wearing off at this point if he's managed them correctly. We've got Red Hornet getting pretty close to hammer time and then dropping back a little bit. Let's go take a look at Simsbad and Shay B. We have a lot of very interesting individual battles happening on the track at the moment. Some idiot getting ever closer to Creamy Johns, but actually able to keep the gap consistent at least over the last lap with 4.8 seconds between the two drivers. Creamy Johns, if he plays his strategy right, I think will be able to finish ahead of him. Oh, Shay B with a lockup at a weird point in the turn there. Picks up an interesting point for the turn-in to get a pretty late apex. Interesting just how hard he hit the brakes there. Really got a lot of rotation on the car, but I don't know. We'll see if it worked out for him. Obviously, Simsbad got more speed at the end of the straight here, and the way Shay B is cooking through these tires, and Simsbad doesn't seem to be. I think Simsbad is going to have an overtake on Shay B here at some point. It's just a matter of when. Capital Hood running a really nice race out in fourth, 8.9 seconds behind Stoney. Of course, he would like to close that gap, but fourth, not half bad. Rogue falling down position, spins on the back straight here. Needs to get it going. Nice pass from Simsbad there. Oh, Getchum. Getchum comes back for more. Decides the crossover at the hairpin is the right turn for him. Gets ahead. Maybe he got the DRS activation zone. Not quite. Neither of them did. At least neither of them opened the DRS if they did. Now we've got another driver around. That's Dr. McShorty. No safety cars as of yet. It takes typically a little more than a spin to call out a safety car. More along the lines of an accident or that will snap your axle or something like that. Maybe even a whole wing. I've seen cars being parked for too long without a wing causing a safety car, but most of the time it's got to end your race for the safety car to come out. Simsbad's going to look for a pass here. Gets down the inside, but let's see if Shay B's able to cross over again. Not giving Simsbad, learning from last time, parking his car in a part of the track where the crossover was a little tougher to do. Rogue is retired from the session after going into the pits, deciding that last wall touch was not what he wanted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, all a driver has to do is finish better than one driver and finish the race to get some points for themselves this week. Hopefully next week we'll have some more drivers. My guess is a lot of drivers being scared off by the fact that this is Vietnam, so very much props to the drivers that have shown up today. The reason I say that is street tracks always tend to draw less racers. Some drivers just feel less comfortable driving 28 laps in a row without any assists on around the entire circuit. Unfortunately, for me, it's no excuse not to show up to a race. If you're gonna run into a wall and make yourself look like an idiot, well then practice a little more, or learn that lesson, right? Learn where that happens to you on the track. Of course, you don't want to ruin anyone's race, so I'm not. Whoa, Capital Hood! Oh man, we caught a mid-corner there, sliding out. If he's able to control the car that well through these corners, no surprise he's been able to keep that together so far. Of course, if he's dancing that close to the edge as well, we've seen that bite him before. But I imagine if you're Capita Hood, you're feeling pretty good about your race so far. The closest driver behind you, Shay B, is just now into the pits, who even started on a softer compound of tires. So Capita Hood feeling pretty good about these mediums. I imagine going to be taking them around 5 to 6 more laps. 7 if he's feeling really good on them, and then finishing out the race in softs. But they could be interrupted by a safety car. I think now is a time where Capita could pit onto hards and finish out the race with 21 laps on the hards pretty comfortably. Or with 21 laps, the hards being rated for, could finish out the race pretty comfortably on them. If he's got another set of mediums, those are potentially an option. However, he does have to obey the 2 compound rule, which means he needs to switch those tires out for a different compound before the end of the race. So switching to the mediums would not quite get him there. Getcham getting very, very close to Hammer Time, looking like he's going to get the move done down the straight here. Gets past him. See if he's able to get all the way ahead of him. Yes, he is. But the AlphaTauri of Hammer Time is going to take advantage of that slipstream. They're going to dive down into the turn here. Hammer Time needs to keep a level head. Tries the cross. Well, just tries down the inside, really. No crossover about that. Hammer Time following in that slipstream is going to get the DRS activation, provided he can stay within that 1 second down to the main straight. Ooh, maybe it looks like a little bit of a touch from Hammer Time there on Getcham. Getcham with a little bit of the early braking, at least according to Hammer Time. Getcham didn't think so. Thought he was able to get around that corner pretty safely. Capita Hood stays out. Now we've got Creamy Johns as well as Stoney into the pits. Let's see where they come out. I think they're going to have enough time to get back out onto the track. Creamy Johns now into third. Has got to be happy about that. For him, it's really going to all be about the undercut. I think some idiot is not going to spend too many more laps on those softs, but I could be wrong. He might want to finish the race on some pretty strong mediums. Hammer Time gets the move done there. It's going to make it stick going into, out of turn 1 around the sweeping hairpin there. That DRS activation helping out significantly. Getcham is going to get a chance to come back at him, though, with the DRS activation down the back straight here. We have the AlphaTauri of Hammer Time goes around a little too touchy on that sensitive throttle from him. Very unfortunate. They're not coming off too terribly, at least as far as positions. Looks like Red Hornet might get the pass as well. Oh, yes, absolutely. Hammer Time missing quite a bit of his front wing there. I'd venture to say as much as half of the downforce missing from that car currently. Has got to be careful coming in behind, yeah, the Alpha there. Alfa Romeo, that is, because he's not going to have quite as much braking force. Hammer Time really fighting aggressively for as little downforce as he has. Coming into that turn, really locking it up. I suppose he knows he's going into the pits, so no need to save these tires. Use all the tread on them, lock it up as much as you can, get as much out of them, but we really have to be careful of him. Where you can see it's hurting him is in the high-speed corners, where he just needs that downforce to even get around the turn. Now, didn't do too bad making it to the pits, kept it out of the wall, which a lot of times is all you can hope for. Capita Hood, now the race leader, inherited that after some idiot pitted. Currently with Creamy Johns and some idiot. Oh, Creamy John's looking to make the pass as we speak on Capita Hood. Goes around the inside. Capita Hood closes the door on him. Gets the better positioning around the chicane, going around the sweeping hairpin of turn 8 and 9 here. Come out here. Creamy Johns is going to have the DRS activation going down this straight as soon as we get to the DRS zone right about now. Looks like he's already closing that gap. I anticipate Creamy Johns is going to be able to make this pass. No problem. It's going to be Capita's mission now to either take that position back into the corner here or get him positioned for the DRS zone down the main straight. Now, some idiot has got to be liking this battle going on between them. Capita Hood, I imagine, is going to put up quite a fight if he doesn't pit this lap here. But some idiot's got to be liking this from the aspect of they are slowing each other down. Some idiot now only 2.3 seconds behind Capita Hood, and Capita Hood only 0.6 seconds behind Creamy Johns is going to be able to keep that up. Some idiot has that gap now down to 2 seconds. Capita Hood with a lockup. Some idiot, I have a feeling, is going to be closing that, but the bad news for Capita is now that drags him out of DRS range of Creamy Johns. Very unfortunate. Creamy Johns really has to push the pedal to the metal if he's going to want to take home gold today on that top step of the podium, because 1.3 seconds behind Capita may feel comfortable, but looking just behind him, only 1 second now, less than a second behind Capita is some idiot. Some idiot's going to get the DRS activation, and I imagine going to be able to get that pass done quite easily. Let's take a look. Doesn't quite get the DRS activation down that straight, but goes in to the longest straight on the circuit here. He's going to cross the DRS timing line with DRS advantage. There is the timing line there. Or no, that was the speed trap there. Timing line was much further before that, but I believe he's going to have it. Yep, flips that DRS open. As soon as he gets across the line, Some Idiot's going to be able to get around. Going to go down the inside. Captain Hood's really going to try and stick his nose in there for Some Idiot to make a mistake possibly, but Some Idiot, just as consistent as we've seen him in the past, makes no mistake, no foot place out of position, and puts in a fastest sector to boot. Much to do with the DRS activation. So Captain Hood has another chance to get a DRS train going if he stays on the back of Some Idiot. However, it's going to be close. Already slipping to 8/10 by the end of Sector 3. DRS detection zone is going to be coming up here. Captain Hood at 1 second exactly. Looks like he slips out of it. I don't know if that's going to get him the DRS activation down the main straight. No, it does not for Captain Hood. So that gap is going to increase, especially as Some Idiot now creeps into DRS range of Creamy John's. Only 2/10 out. I imagine before they get to the main straight again, Some Idiot will be within DRS range. I think he may even back down, on the back straight have the DRS advantage. It all really depends how much slipstream advantage Some Idiot's able to get off of that straight right there. Some Idiot down to 1.3 still. No significant change. Won't get DRS activation coming down the main straight then. Around the rest of the back straight. Just too far behind as far as the DRS activation goes. But he will get within DRS range, it looks like, possibly at the end of this straight here. Cuts his gap down below a second into the braking zone, I suspect. 0.81, no, yes, there it is. Cuts it down. If he keeps this gap or makes it smaller, is going to get DRS activation down the main straight, and I anticipate that is where he's going to want to make his move. He knows he's got the pace, seeing by what Creamy John's has done. Captain Hood extending those tires into 14 laps, I assume is going to go on the one-stopper. Captain Hood not in a terribly bad position as it is. I think if he pits right now, he'd come out somewhere around 7th. I don't think he'd drop as far as 8th. Definitely not 9th. So I understand Capita's want to push these tires out a little bit, give himself the really fresh softs in this traffic, because judging by the midfield here, we've got tire strategies of all different flavors. Stoney on 3 laps of those mediums, Getchum, Red Hornet only 6 laps into them, Sims Bad 1 lap into those softs, Shea B only 4 laps, Hammer Time 1 lap, maybe is gonna have to pit again. So Hammer Time, as of right now, maybe the only one that's going to be able to complete one stopper effectively. Some Idiot, I'm sure, is going to go for it, but I think he's got his tire management under control. I think it'll be an interesting bluffing game between Some Idiot and Creamy John's, of which Creamy John's, I imagine, will have the upper hand in no time, just because Creamy John's, it's gonna get passed by Some Idiot here if Some Idiot is smart about it. If Creamy John's keep behind him, more power to him, I suppose, but there we go. Some Idiot gets the pass done down the back straight, 2 DRS zones after I thought he might. Creamy John's gonna fight for it, definitely gets better traction out of the exit there, goes out of the exit of turn 12, not able to quite get it past Some Idiot, but definitely able to keep it locked on his gearbox, only 3/10 behind through the S's here. Both drivers pretty much matching each other's step turn for turn. Creamy John struggling with a little bit of a lack of downforce, because as we mentioned earlier, missing downforce and that wing C is going to create some of that oversteer there. Reason being is there is a pocket of air traveling behind Some Idiot's car that extends out from his car just behind where he has been. Basically, it's thinking about a hole puncher through paper. You try to put another hole punch through that same hole, it's going to have a lot less resistance. Some ways that's good. It will increase your top speed as a Formula 1 driver. In other ways that is bad, because less resistance on your wing means less force pushing you into that pavement, which is why you're seeing so much understeer from Creamy John's right now on similarly aged tires to Some Idiot. But Creamy John's really doing well to keep it in that DRS range of now 0.6 seconds behind him. Captain Hood finally into the pits. Ooh, now out of the pits. He's going to come out right behind Getchum. Nice pit from Capita Hood, especially if he thinks he can take these to the end of the lap. Getchum is definitely going to have to pit before the end of this race. Stoney, maybe borderline. Creamy John's borderline some idiot as well. So Capita Hood, I like this decision from him here. He's going to have some nice fast laps here. It really all depends on how well he's able to manage his tires going into the closing stages of this race. Creamy John staying locked on some idiot. We're going to keep a close eye on that. But right now, Capita Hood is very interesting to watch. On these fresh softs, I imagine he's going to be able to make quick work of Getchum here. If not now, in, I'd say, no more than 6 laps or so. Oh, here we go. He's already got the DRS run. He's going to be able to get past him quite quickly here. It's going to be a matter of Getchum. He's going to try for the crossover here, go down the inside, try to get a best traction zone, but actually slips wide. I think he could have maybe executed that a little bit better. However, he may have been right up against the limit of those medium tires there of Getchum. So Capita Hood looks ahead now to Stoney, who's 9 seconds down the road on those 5-lap old mediums. So Capita in a very good position. If Stoney decides he needs to pit, every second that Capita Hood is able to close that gap to Stoney, that is going to be more and more advantage after Stoney pits, provided he is pitting. However, I don't necessarily dislike the strategy either if Capita Hood stays on this tire to the end of the race and Stoney stays out, because Stoney at that point is going to be looking at 16-lap old mediums, which is exactly as much as they're rated for. So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if he's able to keep pace through tires that old. While some drivers may be able to push tires quite a bit further than others, you're not going to be able to hold that cliff forever. And Stoney, I don't know that he's really shown that in the past, that he's able to manage that tire cliff well. So for a driver like him, I think it's very risky to get that close to the edge. However, what he's going to be weighing right now is that he's 17 seconds behind Creamy John's, but if he pits, he's going to potentially fall all the way behind Red Hornet. So if he's looking at Red Hornet's Simspad strategy, Shea B, Hammer Time really is the only one in 6th or below that could maybe go to the end of the race on his current tires. Oh, with the exception, of course, of Randoms and Dr. McShorty, who are going to make a liar out of me and pit this lap, deciding that they are now within the window of being able to bring these softs into the end of the race, which I have to say is a pretty comfortable window. Softs rated for 12 only have to go 10 now, so I think we're going to see a lot of drivers, even if they're on the mediums right now, if they think they can't take them to the end of the race, they're going to be wanting to switch over for those softs just to get the maximum life out of those. Really, that depends on how well they think they're going to be able to perform on those softs, because they're on the medium, or excuse me, yeah, the softs they'll be switching to. Because if they don't think they can squeeze anywhere near 10 laps out of them, maybe they can get 9, which means now is your pit window. I think anything less than 7 laps to go, it's pretty much a waste to pit. Because the problem is you don't have any chance to make up your positions again. 7 laps is not that much time to make up on another driver. The only way you're going to be able to really gain huge advantages out of that is if you happen to catch up to another driver that has decidedly overcooked their tires and really ran them off the cliff. So something to watch out for. I think Stoney is very close to that point. Getchum and Red Hornet, if they're going to get courageous here and try and take these tires over to almost 20 laps on these mediums, I think they're going to really open themselves up to an attack on or by Simsbad, maybe even Hammer Time at that point. I think Randoms and Dr. McShorty are actually positioned pretty well to get into a higher point standing than 10th. Hammer Time is going to have not a terrible time making those mediums last to the end of the race, but Randoms and Dr. McShorty might have a great time on those softs getting those to last to the end of the race now. So I think that's what it comes down to. Our racers here tonight is going to be tire strategy. Creamy John's really holding on to some idiot here. I think Creamy John's, if he wants to try the undercut, maybe pits here onto the softs in the next lap or so. But the question is going to be, because well, it depends on how confident Creamy Johns is in his ability to pass some idiot right now. If Creamy Johns really feels he can get past some idiot, great. stay in the race, stay on the same strategy as he is. If he pits, you pit. Although what I noticed there, that was a really big corner cut by Creamy Johns. I wouldn't be surprised if he caught a warning there. Didn't see any penalties as far as seconds go. No seconds added. But he definitely picked up at least one warning there from the stewards. So Creamy Johns, if he's confident that he can pass some idiot, oh, there we go. There's some our late race pits going on from Getchum and Red Hornet, further solidifying Shaby and Hammer Time's decision to pit onto those mediums when they did. Really good for them. Getchum actually out of the pits now into 7th, just ahead of Hammer Time. Now Getchum looking pretty good with only 0.8 of a second behind Shay B. Let's go ahead and tune into that one quick. Of course, we're going to be keeping our eye on Creamy Johns, who has now slipped down to 7/10. So getting back into that DRS range is going to be able to challenge some idiot. Going to be really interesting. No safety cars yet in the race means we have yet to really bunch up our grid. So Capita Hood, all of that done on merit, able to close that gap. Getchum looks like he's going to try for it into turn number 10 there. Gonna really get it down into turn 11. Let's go ahead and ride on board with Shay B. See what he decides to do here. Stays to the outside. I think takes the exact same line because he knows he's really not going to be able to get that good of an exit with those 9-lap old mediums. And that's kind of what he opened himself up to while on this strategy. So Getchum is going to put some time on him quickly and not even look back. Creamy Johns must pit now if he wants to pit onto those softs. Excuse me, I shouldn't say that. Must pit now if he wants to try and undercut some idiot even somewhat. Which, judging by the amount of tire slip he had going out of that corner, I don't know that that would be a bad idea. He's got 23 seconds between himself and Stoney. Pretty much enough time to squeeze a whole pit stop in there. But even if it's not, I think he'd be able to overtake Capita Hood and Stoney pretty easily on those softs. However, if he doesn't think some idiot is even kind of interested in pitting, it's going to be... I don't know that there's a huge urgency to pit either. I mean, obviously he's got a huge 23-second gap. Take the second place, especially if you feel some idiot is going to be hanging out right around here. Some idiot, of course, one of those drivers known to really hold that ERS, that extra energy boost, till the end of the race, till when he can really kind of outpace the opponents. Some idiot hasn't quite had the luxury he normally has of other races of really saving up all that ERS for use later in the race, only because he's been challenged for most of the race. I mean, early on you saw him go from first down to, I think it was 8th or 9th, falling out of those positions quickly, but then working his way up through the field very quickly. Not necessarily wasting ERS, but using ERS at a much quicker pace than he normally does when he is decidedly on his own, basically in his own world out in front of the pack, and able to save pretty much much ERS as he wants until he starts seeing lap times dwindle. Capita Hood gonna challenge Stoney here. Stoney, I think, is in a little bit of a tough position as far as what he wants to do here. It looks like those mediums are giving him quite a bit of hassle here. I think I'd consider pitting if I were him. That's if you know about the 23-second gap between Simsbad and Capita Hood, because if you come out on, no matter what it is, softs, mediums, you can come out on hards and still probably be pretty competitive with Simsbad as far as pace goes by the time Simsbad gets to the end. So if Stoney's really grasping at straws here on these tires, I think I'd prefer a pit out of him. However, if he feels he has the tires under him comfortably for now, I don't think there's any reason for him to come in. The only thing he can do at this point is hold up the field a little bit, maybe give his teammate Shaby a little more of a look at some positions as well. Capita Hood gets that done. Stoney with a little bit of understeer there, just shown by his aged tires. Capita Hood tires pretty much in the prime of their life right now. Going to be starting to lose some lap time, but by no means falling off a cliff just yet. Give them another 5-6 laps, that'll happen. But by that time, we'll be at the end of the race. So Capita Hood looking very good with this decision of pit strategy. There we go. Some idiot looking to put the ERS on and put some space between himself and Creamy Johns, fully eliminating the possibility of that DRS range. Creamy Johns, I think, now stays out no matter what. Capita Hood on those softs is pretty daunting, and I don't think you can get out ahead of him the way the cars are spaced now. So Creamy Johns, yeah, option to pit, maybe. Maybe he wants to set the fastest lap. That does come into play, especially when you have drivers really fighting back and forth like this, like we've seen most of our grid do this season so far. That 1 point can matter. So maybe that is the call here. Maybe you want that fastest lap, but fastest lap is not worth losing one of those positions, because the 1 point for the fastest lap never outweighs the points you could be losing for a lost positions. Hammer Time with a 5. Oh, wow. 2 penalties back to back here. 5, 6, 7, 8 penalties now. 8 seconds worth of penalties. That's going to significantly cut his time down to randoms, and randoms now catching up very, very quickly because Hammer Time is in the pits. All right. Now we keep riding on board with our race leaders here. Looks like that's almost all but decided, barring any large accident here. But what we have on track that is interesting is Getchum on 2-lap-old softs and Simsbad on 9-lap-old softs. So Simsbad tires are quickly approaching that cliff, 9 being about the beginning of that pit window. Wow, Hammer Time for a second fell down into last, but is quickly able to make that pass again on Dr. McShorty. Dr. McShorty might actually challenge him, though, on similarly accosted softs. Getchum able to make that pass no problem. Simsbad, knowing that he can't cook those tires too much like he did there, had a little bit of a lockup, gonna roast those tires before the race is over. So he has only 4 laps to go, but in that time he can't lose more than 6 seconds to Shay B behind him, and that is before penalties. So if he has any penalties, of course, that will get factored into that as well. As we know, Hammer Time has at least 8 seconds worth of time or 7 seconds worth of time penalties, which actually may put him out of the points the way we stand right now. Dr. McShorty will be going ahead of him if Hammer Time retains those penalties, and Dr. McShorty is able to keep the gap at least similar to what it is right now. Capit Hood, that 21-second gap has been able to close that by about 1 second to Creamy Johns, but that's not going to be enough to catch up in the amount of time we have left. Red Hornet might be giving Shay B a little bit of a challenge before we know it here. Only 0.3 of a second behind him, has that DRS wide open. Is definitely going to look to make a pass here down into turn number 6. Gets down the inside, actually gets past him pretty cleanly. Oh, Red Hornet goes around the outside of Shay B there. Shay B taking the position, not quite. Wow, switch back here. Sorry, too much to handle, but Red Hornet ultimately gets out ahead as they go down the back straight. One of them will have DRS. It is the Red Bull of Shay B, so he's going to quickly pull ahead on those older mediums. That's exactly where he wants to be. He's going to need to make his car very wide for Red Hornet if he's going to want to prevent the overtake based on the age that Red Hornet has on those tires. Only 3 laps. He's going to be much, much, much grippier around these corners compared to those 13-lap old mediums. Red Hornet still seeming to struggle with that a little bit. So Shay B able to make his card very wide. Something we saw in spades last year from Shay B, able to remain extremely competitive, even went on the not optimum tire strategy, just due to where he decides to park his car in the racing line. Doesn't take any more curb than he needs to in order to keep his opponent at bay behind him. Because Red Hornet right now should have spades of pace in these corners. As you can see, he just got a little bit of a better exit out of it, and that might be enough to seal the deal for Shay B there. Shay B, of course, going to look to take that back with the crossover down turn 1. Not going to quite find it. I was going to have to stay in the slipstream of Red Hornet until we cross the DRS activation line and get our DRS activation points, which it looks like Shay B is going to get the DRS activation here. Throws that wing open. Going to start closing that gap to Red Hornet now. Hammer Time now with the fastest lap. It has to finish 8 seconds or more ahead of Dr. McShorty, which looks like he will do if he keeps doing what he's doing. So still going to remain in the points. Going to be 2 points for Hammer Time, taking home the fastest lap as well. Of course, that could always be taken away from him by the end of the race. Some idiot may want to pit. He might feel pretty comfortable where he's at. But I think that'd be just handing the race win to Creamy at this point. So let's see if he's able to close that gap at all. Creamy John's actually closing that gap ever so slightly, but I think that probably has more to do with some idiot conserving his tires, not taking any risk. In the next 2 laps, he could give up 3 seconds to Creamy John's and still be ahead of him, and still finish first. So really, there's no reason for some idiot to take any risks here. Let that gap increase, charge up your ERS, and try and get as much jump of your opponent at the end as far as engine modes and ERS goes, if you need to. But right now he's been maintaining that gap pretty consistently, not going to be in danger of that changing anytime soon. Randoms just got passed by Hammer Time, but Hammer Time is still going to have to put 8 seconds on Randoms. That's 4 seconds over the next 2 laps, which that is a tall ask. Already done 1 second though, so maybe it's not too tall of a thing to ask for, because he has the rest of sector 3 on this lap. Then he will have 6 more sectors, so that is about 1 second per sector. Randoms, or excuse me, Hammer Time is going to need to put on randoms in order to increase that gap enough to negate his time penalties. If he holds the fastest lap, Hammer Time I don't think would mind finishing 9th this race, considering how it's gone for him with that extra pit. Definitely wasn't ideal, but he's going to want to finish with as many points as possible, of course. So already 2 seconds on randoms. Got to get to 8 by the end of the race. So if he's looking at almost 3 seconds by the end of sector 1 here, he's on pace to outpace random. So he knows the job he's got to do. Now he just has to perform. All right, out of sector 1 he is on target. Now he has to be pretty much 4 seconds up on randoms at the exit of sector 2 this lap. Already most of the way there. I think that's going to work out nicely for him. We've got some idiot here who is on the lead lap looking to potentially lap randoms here, so don't pay any attention to how close he is there. Some idiot may get a slipstream off of him, which may be able to take home the fastest lap, actually out of Hammer Time's hands. So Hammer Time here is now 3.9 seconds coming out of sector 3. Which is good, definite improvement, but could improve more. Is going to need to squeak out another whole second by the start-finish line in order to keep on pace for outpacing randoms by the end of the race here. Of course, that is all due to time penalties. Wow, massive lockup from Hammer Time. He's really pushing that pace out of those tires. I mean, it makes sense. He's got 2 laps spent on those softs. Wow, decides they're not hot enough, but really what he needs to do is keep it pointed in this right direction. So he's got 1 lap left to put 1 more second on. I think he's going to be able to do that, provided he puts no more time penalties on as well. And the way the back end is sliding out on him, I don't know that is a guarantee. Hammer Time, I think, wants to go for a faster lap because he's got less fuel on board. Weaving back and forth. I don't know if it's just a celebration. Really, he needs to get a move on because he might lose that position. He's only 3 tenths behind right now, random. So he needs to get a move on if he's going to close that gap enough to negate those time penalties. As we get some idiot on his last lap here, currently going through sector 1 himself, Creamy John's on the same strategy there. Yeah, Creamy John's just now passing, looks like, oh no, that's Dr. McShorty passing Creamy John's there. So yeah, some idiot really 8 seconds ahead of Creamy John's. I think is gonna have no problem getting it across the start finish line. Hammer Time letting the gap slip to 6 seconds. That's really not going to work for him. He needs to keep that pace up if he doesn't want to be hurt by the time penalties. But at the rate he's dropping pace, I wonder if he's out of gas. Yeah, he's really going slow. I kind of wonder if he's out at this point. That's going to hurt him because now random's catching up. 3 seconds. Dr. McShorty now in the time penalty range. Sort of Dr. McShorty doesn't have any time penalties. Hammer Time's going to lose out to him as well. Really unfortunate for Hammer Time. Some idiot crosses the line, finishes the race in first. Congratulations to Some Idiot. He's our race winner tonight. Hammer Time jumping down the poles. Hammer Time goes all the way down. Ooh, big crash at the last lap. Luckily, Most of our drivers are out of their cars. Looks like the AI stopped it pretty much on the start-finish line. Going to be a rude awakening from Capita Hood if he's not ready for it. Coming around to the last turn here. Let's see what it looks like from his point of view. Comes around. Most of the cars have been cleared, so not too bad, but he's going to join that pile at the end there of Creamy Johns and Hammer Time. Of course, that took place after the AI took over, so no penalties will be dished out to our drivers there. Next, we have Getchum to cross the line, looking pretty likely. Sims Bad, if Red Hornet makes quite a big mistake, Sims Bad may be able to take over the position from him, but not looking terribly likely at this point in the race. Next, we've got Getchum just crossing the line, goes 5th fastest this race. 6th will be Red Hornet, keeping that, actually gaining in that gap to Sims Bad. Sims Bad maybe having a little bit of a slide there, but not too bad. Not going to change up the order or anything. We got Sims Bad across the line. Now we're just waiting for Shay B to come across. Looks like he had a little bit of drama coming into the penultimate corner there for the race. Now across the line. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Some idiot, your race winner tonight. Going to give us the driver of the day here. Let's see who it picks. Ready, set, now. We've got Capita Hood, driver of the day. I can agree with that one. Capita Hood with a strong podium today in 3rd. Very nice from him. After starting last. So starting all the way in 12th, going all the way up to 3rd. Congratulations to Capita Hood today. That was a very nice drive from him. Some idiot, a great drive from him as well. After starting on pole position, following all the way down to 7th or 8th position and clawing his way back through the field like it was butter. And then we have, of course, the McLaren of Creamy Johns, who gave some idiot quite a good run for his money, but with the time penalty in the end, as well as his just falling short on the pace, not able to outpace some idiot at all. But a very, very nice drive from Creamy Johns. Capita Hood on that podium, taking up some nice points for Renault. Stoney in 4th, Getchum in 5th, Red Hornet in 6th, Sims Bad in 7th, Shay B in 8th, Randoms in 9th, Dr. McShorty in 10th, Hammer Time in 11th, just outside the points with the fastest lap, so takes that point to the grave with him, and Rogue in 12th with a DNF, unfortunately. So, how does that affect our standings for the league? So McLaren comes out, I think, pretty well with 18 points there, but Racing Point was only 1 point behind him, and I think with a double points finish, they're probably going to leapfrog them because some idiot finishing 1st, of course, and Getchum finishing 5th. Pretty strong showing for the team there, no doubts about it. So Racing Point going to move up to 1st in the Constructors' Championship. McLaren's going to stay 2nd. Mercedes, nowhere to be seen this race. No points for them, so they're going to fall down. Red Bull with a decent amount of points this race is probably going to pop up into 3rd. AlphaTauri probably going to find themselves up in probably 4th, leapfrogging Mercedes, my guess, with their showing of no points. So congratulations to our racers tonight. Unfortunately, there is no time tonight for post-race interviews, so I want to thank everyone very much, including our drivers, for joining the stream tonight. If I had a co-commentator, maybe I'd be a little more eager to jump into interviews, but right now I'm gonna go grab a drink of water and not talk to anyone for a little while. So thank you very much everyone in the chat for joining us tonight. We've got some of our classic favorites. Saw William, we saw Zero Jackson, we've got Raul, James Trotter, Funky Cactus, as well as Richard Jennings showing up in the chat at one point. So I want to thank you everyone very, very much for coming out and joining us on the stream tonight. Come back next week. We're going to be at China. I will not be here, but we're going to get someone to take over the stream for me for the week. You will be in good hands, whoever we come up with from PPR, for that to happen. So don't worry about that. So I won't see you in China, but you should see more drivers showing up just to track more drivers they're familiar with and willing a little more to stick their necks out for a track like that where your race can not end so terribly with a wall or something of the like. So thank you very, very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. This has been race number 3 in Vietnam of PPR Season 2. This is Kermit without Cosmo tonight, signing off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you next week. See you then.
I left my job, my boss, my car, and my home. I'm leaving for a destination I still don't know. Somewhere nobody must have duties at all. And if you like this, you can follow me. So let's go, follow me, and let's go to the place where we belong and leave our troubles at home. Come with me, we can go to a paradise of love and joy, a destination unknown. Destination